Hello, so I'm Russ Carson's dad, and I live in Pennsylvania, but I'm in Nashville today because Russ and I are leaving to go to Australia for a couple weeks, having a pretty cool adventure, and we're looking forward to that. But I was debating on what banjo to bring along on this trip because it's a banjo trip, and I decided to bring this banjo. And so anyway, because I'm at Russ's place and I'm actually staying and sleeping in the 81 Crow studio, and Russ insisted that I play a banjo tune for him, decided to do this. So this video is for Paula Fielding, and what this is for any of you open back fans. I know there's a lot of banjo people that watch Russ's channel, but anyway, for any open back fans, Will Fielding was just a wonderful craftsman and a builder who lived in Vermont, and he passed in 2014, and the banjo world lost one of its best. He was just a phenomenal craftsman, and I know he inspired a lot of younger builders, and me as well. So I met Will years ago when I took Russ to Banjo Camp North, and we had a pretty neat trip up there. A couple trips up there, but I think this is the trip that Russ and I and Reed Martin and Jimmy McCowan and Jeremy Stevens piled in our van and drove to Boston and had this crazy 4 or 5 day all banjo trip, and it was just nuts. And at one point I ended up sitting in a jam session next to Will Fielding, this small old time jam, and I had one of my banjos and I was sitting next to Will, and I knew who he was, but anyway, I looked over and he had a really cool banjo and he saw my banjo, and the next thing I knew we were trading banjos, and then we yacked about banjos for the rest of the week or a couple days I was there, and we became friends. And then later I ended up doing a fair amount of engraving on Will's banjos. We did some collaborations together. He had a neighbor of his, Michelle Holtzaffel, a wood carver, do some heel carvings for him, and then I did engraving on inlays with Will. So we worked on inlay design together sometimes. Mostly he did the inlay design, and he always cut them and inlaid them. So make a long story short, Will's last year of building while he was sick, this was the last custom banjo that he started, and I ended up buying Will's parts and bits and pieces from his wife Paula, and really wanted to continue and finish some things that he had started. And a few years before that, I had sold a banjo that we built for me together. It was a short A scale banjo, and I just found my arms were too long, and I really regretted selling that banjo when Will got sick. So when I got Will's stuff, the makings for this and the rough were with the parts, and it was a banjo he had started. It was just a squared off neck, but he had an ironwood fingerboard glued to it, and he had started on the inlays in copper, which is something I did on my first one with him, and it's a 25.5-inch scale, which is my favorite banjo scale. So I was thrilled that, and he had told me about this on the phone, we had talked about it, so I was just absolutely tickled to see it, and I decided the minute I saw it that I was going to finish it and keep it. And so anyway, over the last 4 years I've just worked on a little bit at a time, and I finished it this year just recently, and did it with its ironwood, raw brass parts, copper inlays, copper scoop, and then something to show you on the back is decided to do a copper rooster in memory of Will. So Will's logo was a rooster, and so it's also got a few parts from another good friend, Bill Rickard. Kind of revolutionized the banjo world, and this has got one of his White Lady brass tone rings in it, and actually his ball shoes, and it's also got his brand new 10-to-1 brass tuners, which are just fantastic. So anyway, this one's for Paula and for Bill Rickard, and I hope Will Fielding would like how it turned out. I think he would. He likes subtle things, and for me, this is as subtle as it gets. But he was just a great builder. And anyway, here's a simple G tune for Will.